Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. And thank you all for your comments and your discussion. There is such a spectrum of viewpoints and thoughts about what we should do about climate change, what we can do about climate change, how we should feel about it. Which I like to take all of that into account when doing my videos, and then I have my own personal feelings about it, which I espouse on these videos, and then people, lots of people come in the comment section and they're like, "No, not so fast," and that's cool. I'm open to all kinds of opinions, even though sometimes I do get into it with people in the comment section sometimes. But it is what it is. I don't tend to really get rankled about people's opinions unless it's just an ongoing over and over repetition of like, okay, right, I got you. Or if it's just ongoing argumentativeness, I guess. Is that a word? I don't know. Anyways, it's very warm here today, and we're entering the time when the warm days are going to make it kind of uncomfortable in my studio. It's fine right now, but it's just on the verge of being slightly oven-like in here. So I'm looking forward to more of that. Did you all know it was 80 degrees in Chicago yesterday, which is, I think, pretty early in the year, in the season for 80 degrees in Chicago. And now they're all the way back down to like in the 50s. So more weird weather whiplash, and I heard all kinds of stuff about crazy temperatures in Europe over the last couple of days. And that is obviously an ongoing situation with climate change escalating. So, I don't know. I just want to kind of touch on all the opinions that people have about what we can do or what we should do, or whether I know yesterday I was saying get out of the way of the people that are trying to address this, and I totally feel that way. Like, let them address it. Let them do what they have to do. I feel like so, and part of what prompted this conversation was somebody. So people have been sending me this article and this person quite a few times. I've gotten something pertaining to Cory Morningstar in my inbox or in the comment section, and I just didn't really have time to delve into it. So it was I think that linked this podcast. This is from Last Born in the Wilderness. Cory Morningstar, kind of talking about who's behind Greta Thunberg and all the climate movements. And I have very, very mixed emotions about this, because they brought up a lot of very good points about the fact that a lot of these movements don't address the war machine issue, the military industrial complex issue. Okay, fine. But there were a lot of red flags for me. I'm gonna link this in the description box, and you can listen to the podcast. It's fairly long. But basically what she's trying to say is that there's this whole agenda, this whole, the corporatists, the globalists are putting together this whole agenda, and they need the climate activists to get everybody on board and get everybody scared and to sign up for this agenda. And it's like, okay, so, part of me believes that. Part of me is like, I love a good conspiracy theory, and I do believe that there are nefarious forces out in the world that don't have people's best interests in mind and that are trying to make things happen that aren't going to be good for us in the future and would like to usher everybody into this, funnel of weirdness, this dystopian future where, some people have a lot of money or they make it through the bottleneck and everybody else doesn't. I don't know. I have a problem with it all being an agenda, for one. And this is kind of what this person, Cory Morningstar, is trying to say. And two, what if she is part of the other agenda? What if this person is a tool of those that are trying to squash this movement? And on some level, she's saying, and she actually did say in this podcast, why did 50,000 people go out and protest? 50,000 people should have just stayed home and made a garden. And the interviewer was like, yeah, good point. And I was like, that's a stupid point because 50,000 people that are into the climate movement and into climate change and fighting climate change and are up on the game already have gardens. They're probably in the process of making a garden, or they're already like well down the road. Everybody who watches this channel has a garden. Almost everybody. And maybe I'm assuming too much, but most of there's quite a few commenters on here, and if they don't have a garden, it's not for lack of trying, or maybe they just don't have the resources. But everybody here is has a garden or is trying to start a garden or is in the process of gardening. So why can't you garden and go protest? Why can't you do both? I don't know. It was a nonsensical point. Here's another thing that I had a problem with Cory Morningstar. She was, she liked to play dumb about people's names, right? So she kept like getting AOC. What's her name? I don't even know her name. Alexander Ocasio. What? And then the guy brought up Colin Kaepernick, and she was all, yes, I know him. And then later, 5 minutes later, she was talking about Colin Kaepernick, and she's all, Colin, how do you say her name? She kept doing that, and they kept calling it the New Green Deal. They kept messing up. It's a Green New Deal. They kept messing up the name. Like, I felt like you guys are doing this on purpose to make it seem like, oh, you really don't know about this. You really just aren't aware of this stuff. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that. Cory Morningstar, I call bullshit on you. And you're like, I just don't know about this culture of celebrity. I call bullshit on that. I don't have a problem with everything that you said, but I have a problem with your faux not knowing what's going on thing. Because if you're such a researcher, if you're, into knowing about all this stuff, then you know who the fuck AOC is. You know how the fuck to say her name, and you know how the fuck to say Colin Kaepernick's name. Just stop with that shit. And it's the Green New Deal. What is the new Green Deal? It's just, you guys, come on. Anyways, here's my other, what else did I want to say about this? I think that's all I want to say about this, other than the fact that here's the thing, is that there have been movements in the past that have changed the direction of society. Things have, there have been strikes, and they're violent and nonviolent. We've seen this done in the past. There are ways that you can affect change in your government, in your society, in your culture, in your nation. People do it all the time. Right now, they don't do it, especially in the U.S., because people are too damn comfortable. And and I'm sorry to say, on some level, cowardly. They're just not willing to go put themselves out there. And they know, when you see Julian Assange dragged out of the Ecuadorian embassy after being in solitary confinement for 7 years, you see what people do to the truth tellers. You see what people do. People don't want to go get arrested. People don't want to have their lives disrupted. People don't want to face the hardship. So, again, bravo for Extinction Rebellion for going out there and disrupting business as usual, for having people get arrested for putting themselves in an uncomfortable position. Bravo for the yellow vests, for going out there and, mixing it up with the police and facing some kind of hardship and living out in the street. A lot of the yellow vests people are like living in the streets. They're living, close to the action. They're living in an uncomfortable situation in order to protest the government, and they're putting themselves in harm's way. And I have a problem with people being so cynical and so like, it's all a plan. They're all controlling us, and doing that to the extent that people can just sit around and go, yeah, this is what I heard. It's all a plan. It's all an agenda. Just stay home and watch YouTube. Just, I just, there's a part of me that feels like it's a little bit disingenuous, and it's also, and even if it is, even if it is coming from a totally authentic place, don't just cynical yourself into the ground to the point where you can't do anything. This has to be a personal and a political revolution. This has to be macro and micro. This has to be, regional and national. And global. It has to include all of those things. So you can plant a garden, and you can go out and protest, and you can go out and run for office, or, whatever, or be on YouTube, or do social media, or have meetings, have climate change meetings, or be a part of some groups. You can do a bunch of things. You can do a whole array of things. You don't have to, but I mean, I think going out on protesting on a Saturday and going like, yeah, here's an ice cream. Yeah, Earth Day. I think that's a little, you have to actually protest in a way that makes people uncomfortable. In a way that disrupts business as usual. You have to protest in a way that gets people's attention. And you're going to end up making people mad, and you're going to end up making the power structure mad, and they're going to do things to you then. So, or don't let, and apparently Cory Morningstar has lots of, credentials as an activist, and I don't know that. I don't know much about her, and I'm not going to take that away from her. I'm not going to take away the fact that I think she's coming from an authentic place. Maybe, but I'm very skeptical about this message. I'm super skeptical. Anyways, that's all I'm going to say about that, because I have lots more things to delve into, and probably not enough time. From Forbes, this is from April 5th, 2019. The world economy is a pyramid scheme, Stephen Chu says. Really? Tell me more, Stephen Chu. Let me hip you to something, though, Stephen Chu. A lot of people already know this. The world economy is based on an ever-increasing population, said Nobel laureate Stephen Chu. A scheme that economists don't talk about and that governments won't face, a scheme that makes sustainability impossible and that is likely to eventually fail. The world needs a new model of how to generate a rising standard of living that's not dependent on a pyramid scheme. Tell me more. Chu didn't specify what that new model would look like. Okay, well then, anyways. But he offered a solution to the population growth the current one relies on. Increased economic prosperity and all economic models supported by governments and global competitors are based on having more young people workers than older people, Chu said. Two schemes come to mind. One is the pyramid scheme. The other is the Ponzi scheme. I'm not going to explain them both to you. You can look it up. But it's based on growth in various forms. For example, healthy young workers pay the healthcare costs for aging workers and retirees. The former energy secretary said, as a scheme that requires increasing numbers of young workers and economic growth requires more and more people to buy more and more stuff with dire environmental consequences. Or at least two problems with that. Depending on a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, there's no such thing as sustainability. As standards of living increase, population growth declines. So if the economy succeeds in raising standards of living, it undermines itself. The economists know this. They don't really talk about it in the open, and there's no real discussion in government. Every government says, you have to have an increase in population, whether you do it through immigrants or the home population. And that's why the argument about immigration is actually completely and utterly disingenuous. If we didn't have immigration in this country, we would be in negative population growth, and that would be bad for the economy, and they all know that. And so they, and this has been going on for decades, scapegoating immigrants and then going, come on in, we need you. The economists know this, blah, blah, blah. Every government says you have to increase in population, whether you do it through immigrants. China has replaced its one-child policy with incentives for parents to have 2 children. Chu noted as an example. In France, offers a prize, the Médaille des Familles Françaises, to mothers of large families. Really? Wow. Incentives like these will not help the world achieve sustainability, he said. Chu, the man who solved the Gulf oil spill with a doodle on a napkin, then offered 2 painless solutions to population growth: education of women and wealth creation. Across all cultures, you go negative birth. In many countries around the world, developed countries, Japan, Spain, Italy, we're talking about 1.3 children per couple, yes. In many of those countries, developed first world countries, in Japan, population is decreasing. And they're like, we don't know what to do about that. Maybe the problem isn't, and there's been some discussion about the problem. The problem is capitalism. There's nothing wrong with, paying money for goods and services, which is on some level the basic idea of capitalism, but it's like the profit motive, the wealth motive, right? There's like, you can buy things and you make money, and then you can have more money and then you can buy more things. But the thing is, we've definitely jumped the shark as far as consumerism goes, right? We're beyond, having everything we need to live comfortably. That personally is a big problem. Like, what, why do we need to have all of these things? And obviously the need or the drive to have all these things is going to take us very shortly, in very short order. It's going to take us down. So what's the cutoff? Where's the, where do we stop at what we need? I mean, like, if we want to go back, on some level, if we want to live in a sustainable society, we actually have to cut off consumerism, as a tumor, as an outgrowth, as an overgrowth, an overstep of things that we need. Like, what do we need to be comfortable? We need clothes and some food, and we need, some shelter. Some people would say heat. Some people might say air conditioning. I don't know, whatever. We can, we debate all that all you want. But beyond that, how much do we really need? How much can one buy? How much can one have? Maybe there should just not even be a wealth tax, but like a I don't know, like a consumption tax or something. I'm not sure. I'm just winging it right now. But why not? Why not make, we've things that are really special and important, like maybe having a musical instrument, or maybe having something that you really, or even a car, let's say. Like, why shouldn't it be wildly expensive so that, you really have to save for, we're the opposite. We're going the opposite way, where everything is just dirt cheap. You can have anything you want, for $100, not a car maybe, but you can go out and buy, I can go out and buy anything in my studio right now besides this computer, for like $100. And that seems almost weird to me. That seems ridiculous. All these electronics, all these toys, all these instruments, can be had for nothing. But what they cost to make, and what they cost to ship, and what they cost to create is not nothing. There was externalities involved. So The price of things should reflect externalities. They should be precious. Things should be precious and wildly expensive, so that you have to work a long time to get them, and when you get them, you really have to appreciate them, or you might appreciate them because you took whatever. Anyways, or maybe we shouldn't own anything at all. Maybe everything should just be everything should just be shared, loaned. Why can't I walk down the street and go to a place and go like, I want to play a guitar. Can I have this guitar and take it home for a couple weeks? Sure, here you go. Like libraries. They have libraries where you can go fix stuff. Which is an amazing idea. Why not just have just libraries for things, Oh, I want to ride a bike. I want to play a guitar. I need a microphone so I can record stuff. I'll bring it back. I don't have to own it. It does, it doesn't have. I don't have to store all this stuff. I have to go out and buy. But that completely collapses our consumer capitalist paradigm, which we want to do. As soon as we figure out how to not burn ourselves up with global dimming. Fun with climate change. Let's move on to Bloomberg Business Week. U.S. nuclear power plants weren't built for climate change, and other no-duh news. In 2011, after an earthquake and tsunami caused a meltdown at Japan's Fukushima Daiichi power plant, Gregory Jaczko, then the chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, had to worry about two things: whether radioactive fallout would harm the U.S. and whether a similar accident could befall an American plant. The answer to the first question turned out to be no. Really? The second question preoccupies him still. The NRC directed the operators, they just said it's no. Citing nothing at all, citing no evidence at all. It's fine. And I just got a thing that swished over my computer that said, Greenland ice sheet is melting faster than ever. It's just nonstop, y'all. But this is all a globalist plan to get people scared, to get them into the agenda. It's not. I'm sorry. Bing bong. This is actually, all this stuff is happening. Environmental collapse is happening, and people should be worried about it. And people want to be worried about it, and people want to do something about it. That's what it is. The NRC directed the operators of the 60 or so working U.S. nuclear power plants to evaluate their current flood risk using the latest weather modeling technology and accounting for the effects of climate change. Companies were told to compare those risks with what their plants, many almost a half century old, were built to withstand, and where there was a gap to explain how they would close it. That process has revealed a lot of gaps, but Jaczko and others say that the Commission's new leadership appointed by President Donald Trump hasn't done enough to require owners of nuclear power plants to take preventative measures, and that the risks are increasing as climate change worsens. Tell me more. Nuclear power generated record 807.1 million megawatts of electricity in the U.S. last year, 19% of all power, 19%, more than all renewable sources. Ew. These are the areas expected to flood an average of at least twice a month by 2060. Twice a month. Twice a month. But before that, they're going to flood a whole lot more times. And we're not going to make it to 2060. Based on data from the Union of Concerned Scientists, after Fukushima, U.S. regulators told operators to calculate their exposure to various flood risks and compare that with what the plant was designed for. 90% of the plants had at least one risk exceeding 90% of the plants had at least one risk exceeding their design. According to Bloomberg, review of correspondence between the Commission and plant owners, 54 of the nuclear plants operating in the U.S. weren't designed to handle the flood risk they face. 53 weren't built to withstand their current risk from intense precipitation. 25 didn't account for current flood projections from streams and rivers. 19 weren't designed for their expected maximum storm surge. And 19 faced 3 or more threats they weren't designed to handle. And what about the one by Phoenix, which I believe is called the Aqua Dulce, or Dulce. I think that's what it's called. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong. That one is not on a body of water, and it relies completely on wastewater from Phoenix to cool it. That's a genius idea. The industry argues that rather than redesign facilities to address increased flood risk, which Jasco advocates, it's enough to focus mainly on storing emergency generators, pumps, and other equipment in its on-site concrete bunkers, a system they call FLEX, for flexible mitigation capability. Not only did NRC agree with that view, it ruled on January 24 that nuclear plants wouldn't have to update that equipment to deal with the new higher levels of expected flooding. It also eliminated a requirement that plants run flex drills. Don't worry about it, guys. You're fine. You're okay. No worries. Yeah. This is called Facepalm 1000. Matthew Wald, spokesman for the Nuclear Energy Institute, a nuclear trade group, calls the odds of a Fukushima-style nuclear meltdown that affects people outside of power plants' walls vanishingly small. He says those risks got smaller once plants installed flex emergency equipment after Fukushima. That's all we need, just more equipment. There's a perennial problem in any high-tech industry deciding how safe is safe enough. The civilian nuclear power industry exceeds the NRC required safety margin by a substantial amount. Does it? Is that why many nuclear power plants are leaking radiation? Is that exceeding safety requirements? This article is on some bullshit. Meanwhile, the commission's 3 members appointed by President Trump wrote that existing regulations were sufficient to protect the country's nuclear reactors. Yeah, just trust Trump and the people he appointed. Just, Jasco disagrees. Any work that was done following Fukushima is for naught because the commission rejected any binding requirement to use that work. It's like studying the safety of seatbelts and then not making automakers put them in a car. The commission is carrying out the Trump's deregulatory philosophy, always fun with nuclear reactors, says Edwin Lyman, head of the Nuclear Safety Project of the Union of Concerned Scientists. The NRC basically did everything the industry wanted. The 2 Democratic appointees objected to the NRC's ruling. The majority of the commission has decided that licensees can ignore these reevaluated hazards, Commissioner Jeff Barron wrote in dissent. His colleague Stephen Burns called the decision. The majority of the commission has decided that licensees can ignore these reevaluated hazards, Commissioner Jeff Barron wrote in dissent. His colleague Stephen Burns called the decision baffling. Through a spokesman, the Republican appointees declined to comment. Nuclear power is weird. It exists to produce electricity, and at the same time, it can't exist without electricity. That's weird. Or is it fucking stupid? Says Allison McFarland, who chaired the NRC from 2012 through 2014. You guys feel safer now? Plants need constant power to pump cool water into a reactor's core. And of course, nothing can go wrong with that. If flooding interrupts that power supply for long enough, as happened in Fukushima, the core can overheat, melting through its container and releasing deadly levels of radiation. Or what if the grid goes down? What if some other extreme weather event happens? So they go through all the, not all, but they go through some of the plants and what, maybe they're going through the very, very scary ones. Turkey Point nuclear plant in Florida. This is on the East Coast. Is it near, I want to say it's probably near Miami or, Yes, near Miami. Terrible place to be. Waterford Stream Electric Station, Louisiana, near the Mississippi River. And also Surrey Nuclear Power Station in Virginia, near the James River. Yeah. So projected storm surge for these places in the very near future. No bueno. Man, I wanted to read this article from Robert Hunsaker, but we're already 30 minutes into this. I think I'm going to leave this article for tomorrow because I'd like to read the whole thing, and it's a good article. So I'm going to end this video with a little feel-good. Feel-good story. Me and my primates, anti-poaching rangers, extraordinary selfies with 2 gorillas that look almost human in Congo National Park. So these are anti-poaching rangers in the Congo National Park, and they're hanging out with gorillas, and some cool pictures. I'm going to post this so you guys can check it out. So these guys are protecting these gorillas and other animals in this park from the scourges of poaching. And that is a cool thing to do. So I'm going to link this below, and that is going to wrap up this video. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.